Okay. Well, we're live. We were having a very heavy conversation before.
Heavy,
Uh,
super heavy. It's for a future episode, though, I think.
yeah. Well, we'll
Or
have a
I
we'll have
definitely,
a diabetes episode.
Yeah.
yeah.
You know what? Actually, if Mick ends up having some sort of gross medical problem, all three of us will have a quasi rare
Yay.
medical disorder.
That will be cool. Well, mine's
Nice.
That
not
will be
really
cool.
rare.
It's rare for I feel like for what like large athletic people. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I guess not too many people who are athletic, I guess, have diabetes, but
Yeah. Mick just has a terminal case of ugly,
Enlarged penis, I believe is the technical medical term for it.
swollen
Yes,
hypogonad.
elephantitis of the gonads.
did y'all see that
Uh,
story? There's like some Brazilian kid. He was born with like two penises, and he could use both, but like the doctors cut off the bigger one. It's like, dude,
Brazilian child
those fucking
born
assholes.
Why
with
did they
two
cut off the bigger one?
penises.
Because they don't want insecurity issues and stuff like that.
The doctor or
Okay.
the boy?
I mean, the kid can't decide. He's like 2 or 1.
Oh,
Kuala
okay. I
Lumpur.
thought he was like, I was just picturing some 22-year-old going, no, give me the bigger
Okay.
one.
No.
Here we go. So the technical term for being born with two penises is diphallia, is what it is.
Well, that expands
one in
over
every
genders, right?
5 to 6 million baby boys are born with an extra penis. The doctors in Sao Paulo were treating the boy and initially planned to save his left penis, which was larger. That's nice to know the medical community is not worried about practicality.
Yeah.
They're like, we're going to save the bigger one.
Yeah.
Do you think like they got a quorum together to try and save the bigger one? Like
they had a
went
panel.
through every single possibility.
Well, I'm assuming
before-
I'm assuming, maybe they brought the parents in and they were like, I don't know, which one do you want? Maybe they busted out like some calipers. G-Lock, another famous audience member with diphallia. Top
Definitely
down.
top down on the left, right.
Combine both of them.
Mm.
That's a surprising amount. 1 in every 5 to 6 million baby boys. Okay, so this is an interesting sentence. While the boy's mother confirmed both penises could be erect, doctors later found out he could only urinate from the smaller right penis, as the penis of the urethra of the
That's
larger
some
one was
bullshit,
too narrow.
man.
Classic
How do you
problem.
That's some
confirm that
bullshit.
Classic
both
problems here.
penises can get erect? At 2 years old?
Examinations also revealed that each member only had one of the two corposa cavernosa, the spongy columns of the shaft of the penis. Typically, there are 3 that filled with blood when becoming erect. So he probably had a relatively rectangular. This show is not what we planned so far. Given that he now only has one corposa cavernosa, it remains unclear whether he will ever be able to achieve erections. Earlier this year, doctors in Uzbekistan came across a 7-year-old with 2 functioning penises.
Oh,
I remember reading on Reddit a guy did an AMA about his 2 penis, like an adult male, and I think he showed photos and people just asked him questions, and apparently he could pee out of both, but it usually came out of one, but if he closed one, it would come out the other. So
that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
How this relates to lifting, we'll figure it out.
How would you train someone?
How would you train someone with diphallia? I'm not sure.
Well, first you'd have to look at it. I mean, that's
How's it going,
obviously
Eric?
the first thing.
How you doing, buddy? Dale's here too. What's up, gents? Good to see you all back. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have the gang back. Chase, can you give us the quick rundown on what we missed last time? Did the doctors discover that you were diphallic? Is that why you had to miss? What happened?
No, man. I actually had some low blood sugar issues. So I, before getting onto the stream, it was Easter, right? So I had eaten a bunch of food and just slowly kind of miscalculated and slowly dipped down into the low zone. And as soon as we were about to start the stream, because we kind of jump on about 15 minutes before, I checked my blood sugar and it was like at 30 something. So I'm like, oh, fuck. Like,
what's standard reference?
Normal range for you normals out there is like 120 to 90.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So within that range, and like, some people run a little bit lower, some people run a little bit higher, but once you kind of get into like the 70s and below, shit just starts getting real weird. And you'd hear me babble on about shit that makes no sense, but in my mind, I'm talking as coherently as I am right now, and it's a trip.
Yeah, you would start selling templates online, is what would happen.
It'd just be like, and then it would come out in my mind as like, yeah, the squat is this, and that.
Yeah, we should all do high bar squats at Chase Lindley in a diabetic fugue state. That's what's gonna happen. How are you, Mick? What's been going on with you? We haven't seen you in a minute.
Not much. Well, not much. Just busy with uni, and yeah, that's about it, really.
What is your certificate? What is your diploma going to say when you're finished? Is it degree of fine arts? Is it like excellent trumpeter? What is it?
That's right. This guy is legit.
No, like literally, what is the title of the program? Like, what is it going to say? Is it a Bachelor of Arts?
Yeah, something I'd rather not say. Didn't we say we're not going to discuss all of my personal information on this live stream on YouTube?
What's your apartment number, man?
Hey, MJDC is in the chat, and we've got a lifetime PR video from him.
Oh, we did? Okay.
Nice.
Yes. Do
you know what lift?
Did that just get into the folder?
Yeah, I literally just put it in about 30 minutes ago.
Ooh, what lifetime lift? PR.
Can you see the video there?
Yeah, I'm grabbing it. It's a squat. We'll put that up there for sure.
Yeah.
And then Dale has a question for Chase. How many California or calls does it take for you to maintain 245?
Calls.
It would be 245 calls, right?
245 calls. I call Chase every 6 minutes. Every time.
I mean, Alex is a key contributor to that number. No, I mean, calorie wise, I mean, I don't really track it, but
calories.
I'm sitting about within a zone of like 3,000 to 4,000. Some days are lower, some days are higher, just depending.
What's an average day? What do you eat on an average day?
Average day in the morning, I usually get about 6 to 4 eggs with some rice or some side.
4.
6 or 4, yeah.
Oh, 6 or 4.
Yeah, not 64. Fuck no.
No,
I thought you said 6 to 4. It's like, why wouldn't you just say 4 to 6? Is that an American thing where you've just reversed it again?
I just wanted to say 6 or 4.
Just trying to flex the
eggs. 6 to 4. Okay, yep.
4 to 6, 6 to 4.
Yeah.
Some rice, some sort of carb because I'll train probably about 4 hours later. And I usually eat breakfast around 8:30. But generally it's rice, so I'll eat probably a little over a cup of rice, and then whatever meat I had left over for dinner. So it could be steak, could be ground beef, pork chops, something like that. So I'm sitting in probably about close to 100 grams, maybe probably 120 grams of protein in that meal, carbs.
How are we getting 120 grams of protein in that? How much meat are you eating? Because I mean,
it
4 eggs
seems like a lot of meat.
4 eggs is like 24 grams of protein.
Sometimes it's like, well, Phoebe doesn't eat all of her steak, and she'll take like 3 bites, and then I fucking clean up, and the steaks are.
So you're eating like 2 pounds of steak.
Yeah, he's eating about a pound.
Really? Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So you're eating 2 pounds of meat at breakfast.
Close to it. Yep.
Okay.
And then
I'm pretty meal.
I'm pretty bad about eating in the middle of the day because I'll have classes at that time, and then after training, I'm like, just quick fix. So sometimes some Fairlife protein shakes, they're about 30 grams of protein. I usually down 2 of those.
Those are a godsend.
Dude, they're badass, man. I love them.
Yeah, I think frankly,
what's that? What is
how many calories in them, Chase? But they're 30 grams of protein.
Low.
It's a very small amount of fluid volume.
Yeah.
It's like I would say less than 2 cups of fluid. And you can just down 30 grams of protein. It's delicious chocolate milk. Yeah.
It has some other good flavors too. Like the strawberry isn't bad. Vanilla's pretty good. The coffee one's all right, but the fucking caramel, I hate that one. I hate the caramel.
Yeah. I think my ultimate diet probably is just like the Fairlife shakes, Sour Patch Kids, cereal, desserts. Complete opposite palate from Chase.
Yeah, you have a functioning pancreas, you can get away with that shit.
If Chase ate that diet, he'd need to have a syringe full of insulin in his arm 24/7, I think.
Yeah. Just an IV drip.
I want to have like 3 little minorities just with a tube connected to their pancreases and then to mine. So that I use them as
they have to be minorities, do they?
Yeah, exactly.
They're more insulin-genic, is what we've learned. Yeah.
Because look, I can pay them.
People.
I mean, hell, like if I get a normal, American, be like, look, $5 a day, and I get to use your pancreas.
Their pancreas is already shot. Their pancreas is already shot. You need Asian people. I feel like they're the ones with the, well-functioning pancreases.
Yeah.
It's all bad.
Just 700 grams of carbs a day, 20 grams of protein. Yeah. That's the peak diet. Yeah. God. All right.
So that's breakfast. That's breakfast. Hang on. Well, that's breakfast. What about dinner?
Dinner, it's usually another serving of big meat. So like a steak again, rice, mashed potatoes, and then ground beef. We cook a lot of chicken tenderloin.
And ground beef? You do steak
No.
and ground
I'm
beef in the
sorry.
same?
No. Fuck no.
Okay.
Steak or ground
Turf and
beef or
turf.
chicken tenderloin.
Okay.
What did we cook the other day? Usually it kind of cycles out of those. And the steaks kind of vary from like strips to sirloins.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty much, dude, I eat like the same food almost all the time, kind of like dog food there, where it's just a
Is it
simple
just
carb.
dog food?
No, man, it's simple carb and then a meat of some sorts.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find? I find like beef really makes me constipated. Like
No, I
pretty
don't
much
have that
any
problem.
kind of beef, really.
Uh-uh. Never found that as a problem.
No.
It's just a Mick thing.
Yeah. We'll cover that in my thyroid episode.
Yeah, we got to have a diabetes episode for Chase.
Yeah, that's next
we gotta
week, and then a
we need to have a
thyroid.
thyroid episode for
Yeah.
Mick, and then a myasthenia gravis episode for me. How about me, Alex? I have it's an autoimmune condition which impacts my neck and face muscles in my hands. So chewing is really hard. So I eat the diet of like a child who eats mostly liquid calories. So like cereal, candy, 70% of my calories. I'm not kidding.
Damn,
like
dude.
brownies, cookies.
Do you think that
protein
might have
shakes.
something to do with your condition, though? Like how you know?
Well, before that, I used to totally just be like a meat guy. I was exactly like Chase. I was just like, like constantly. Yeah, I was just
Now you
perfecting.
don't care anymore because you're gonna die soon. So just like
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm
Now
gonna
I'm
go
just
out.
like, because I'll just try to eat something. I'll try to eat something that's chewy, and my jaw will get pumped out, and I'll be like drooling, and I'll be like, this is not. I don't want to do.
So what is
this.
it? Do you get like lockjaw, or you're just like that?
You know, like literally, like if your forearm gets pumped out and you like try
Yeah.
to squeeze something, and you're like, oh god, I can't squeeze something. That will
Yeah.
happen to my masseters. I'll feel that in, like my
Damn.
masseters and like my submandibular muscles.
Oh, so
and
you
my
actually
neck.
just can't chew,
Yeah, like literally.
right?
Wow.
Yeah, it gets so it was before it got diagnosed. There was like a month period where I was eating like a cheesecake. I would have 2 protein shakes on either side of the cheesecake, and I would just leave it on my desk. And as it would get soft through the day, I would basically just drink a cheesecake. It was an amazing month.
Who's the guy that was like blending up chicken breasts and drinking that? Who was that?
That's Blaine Summers, but there's also a guy, Derek
Marcus
Johnstone.
And
Yeah, but like Blaine Summers, he kind of does it for a meme now. Like he made like a Thanksgiving dinner shake, so he just put like turkey dressing, mashed
That's
potatoes.
probably pretty
and all that
good.
shit.
Got
Yeah,
a lot
well,
of cranberry
cranberry
sauce in there.
sauce.
Yeah, it's really not that bad. Like I actually
Yeah.
made chicken shakes a few years ago, and it was chicken breast, just boiled it, peanut butter and milk. It's just
Peanut butter.
tasting it, it's not
Oh.
bad. No, it's
Yeah.
not bad because you don't really
It's not
taste
bad
the
at all.
chicken.
You probably don't taste
Yeah,
the
that's
chicken at
fine.
all.
No, you
Yeah.
don't. But then
Uh-huh.
afterwards,
think
though,
about
if
it,
you leave
though.
it out, it smells like shit, like way worse than a normal protein shake. It's
Yeah, if you
fucking-
leave it in the
hard.
sun for 3 hours afterwards,
it's
it doesn't smell
nasty.
good.
Yeah.
no, it wasn't bad.
Yeah. Here we go. What about you, Mick?
Well,
What's your
I mean,
typical
to maintain this impressive physique, so I usually eat 8 eggs. I don't eat breakfast, so I'll have my first meal at lunchtime. So I'll have 8 eggs, and I basically put a bunch of Parmesan cheese on top of that with jalapeno peppers and kimchi. Not in the eggs, but I'll have it on the side. And
Kimchi and jalapenos, same meal.
yeah,
So what
it's
is
brutal.
kimchi
I mean,
again?
kimchi's the Korean
Isn't it like
fermented
lettuce or
cabbage.
something? Oh, okay.
It's fermented cabbage and chili and garlic.
And exceedingly spicy.
Well, you get used to it. I mean, the jalapenos, anything after the jalapenos just tastes like cardboard. So, yeah, that's basically lunch. And then dinner's usually probably like 2 pound of chicken thighs cooked in the air fryer. That's pretty much it, man.
I just love the system, man. It is systematized.
I eat the same thing every day.
Same day, every day.
It's just I don't have to ever think about what food I'm going to eat, and that saves me about an hour every day of
The trips to the
like,
grocery
prepare shit.
store,
Yeah.
very simple.
Exactly. Like I just basically I'll marinate the chicken. I'll buy it in bulk. I'll marinate it, leave it in the fridge, and then just take it out, chuck it in the air fryer, cook it for 20 minutes. Delicious every time.
100% consistent.
100% every time.
Do you
Like,
change up your
yeah.
marinades?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes.
What's the usual marinade?
I usually use this sort of Portuguese spicy. Do you guys have Nando's over there?
Nando's.
I don't know what the fuck that is.
Nando's.
It's like a franchise of spicy Portuguese chicken things. Anyway, they have this pretty good marinade that I get at the supermarket. So, or sometimes I'll get like a spicy Korean sauce or a Texas barbecue sauce or something. Just
I'm gonna try this week in your honor, Mick.
You have an air fryer?
No, but I can get one for you.
The air fryers are the greatest cooking device ever invented. I even cook steak in it. I know it sounds like sacrilege, but I cook steak in it and it's pretty good. Like it doesn't char it, but it cooks it nice.
I mean, you can get a cast iron skillet and be totally fine.
How am I going to cook that in my apartment, Chase? I don't have.
I literally live in an apartment too, and I have a cast iron. Yeah, I have a cast iron.
I don't have gas. I don't have gas.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have gas. I have an electric stove.
Cast iron is the simpleton's take. The real pan choice is carbon steel. That's what it is.
What's that? I don't even know what that
is. It has the same exact advantages of cast iron. It is half the weight, and you can cook acidic things in it and not lose your seasoning as much.
What's it called?
Carbon steel pan. They're relatively more thin. They're better for sauces if you like to make pan sauces. I make a lot of pan sauces.
But how are you going to defend your home? Like, you can't whack a motherfucker.
They're still pretty heavy, man. I got a good forearm pump if I'm using carbon steel. I have a 12-inch carbon steel pan. It's a solid 10. The handle is like, the lever on the handle is like, I think 10 inches on its own.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, it's exceedingly long. It's like for like a restaurant, and I'm using it in my fucking stove. It's complete overkill. Complete overkill. All right.
I'm gonna
Johnny G's here. He's putting a vote in for air fryers.
We should have a cooking episode, I reckon. Maybe we did one already, but like, let's do another one. The cooking episode version 2.
I really enjoy cooking. I'm super into it.
You can cook a cheesecake in an air fryer.
I'm sure you could. I can throw a block of cream cheese in the microwave and just pour it in my mouth, rub it all over my face. I think this is great cheesecake, everybody. All right, we gotta talk about the thing. We plan to talk about a thing, guys. We're 17 minutes into it at this point.
We're going to have to get through this pretty quick. 1 minute per point.
Butt wink. Last episode we did on knee valgus was good. Somebody emailed me with a question about butt wink and if it relates to knee valgus. Thoughts on it. So basically, this is the list of things that we should probably go through. The role of the lower back in the squat. Is butt wink something that's normal and is expected, or is it actually problematic? What is the relationship of the pelvis between the hamstrings and the erectors? How does butt wink relate to segment length, like the length of your torso and the length of your femurs? Chase and Alex training updates. Chase is alive again. That's a big one. And then we have some form checks as well, which can show the butt wink concept that we're talking about. Generally speaking, butt wink is a non-problem perpetuated by people who think that it is a problem. This was a clip from a recently posted article on CrossFit.com. It says, during a CrossFit Level 1 course at CrossFit Greer, our participant asked about the elusive butt wink that sometimes plagues even advanced athletes during the squat. Chase, you may be plagued by your butt winking at people and you had no idea.
Don't. A
butt wink is when you see the pelvis tuck under, but my lumbar curve stays locked in. Austin Maliolo. This explains. Maliolo offers some simple cues to help athletes identify and fix their butt wink. And if you watch the video for this, I encourage you to go and find the video for that. He talks about like, oh, you're not activating your hamstrings. You have to activate a lot of things, and it's engaging a lot of things. We're going to talk about what the real version of this conversation should be, just like we did with knee valgus last time. Chase, do you want to start us off with like, what is your common perception of butt wink, things like that?
Yeah, so it's basically an over cueing essentially of the lower back. So in my personal experience, I get a lot of females that have this and a lot of guys who can set their low back extremely well. And at the bottom, it'll kind of show the little butt wink. In reality, it's just their back going back into normal anatomical position with their low back extension.
Yeah. So for those of us who are just to make it, the definition wasn't clear from the last one. Essentially, butt wink is whenever the person is approaching depth in the squat and their pelvis shifts or reorients. So instead of their lower back being like either overextended, like we talked about last time, or in normal anatomical extension, the pelvis rounds and tucks under as the lifter gets to depth or below depth. A lot of times you'll see this on like complete ass to grass squats. It's one of the reasons why we don't recommend complete ass to grass squats. So like Chase was saying, the majority of the time that you'll see butt wink or people doing squat doctoring about butt wink, what it is a lifter in like they're only focusing on lower back extension. They're in gross lower back overextension, for some people would call it, and then it just returns to normal as they hit depth, and then nothing bad happens, and then they stand back up. Would you consider this to be problematic, Chase? Would you consider this to be something that you would like try to like squat doctor and change?
No. At the start, it's pretty easy to fix. You just cue not necessarily what are the posterior muscles doing, right? Setting the spinal erectors, all that shit. Squeezing the abs is a simple cue for that. It can get problematic if someone's not used to this or to know the relationship of what their back needs to be doing, and as they load it, they can suffer some injuries with an overextended low back. But the vast majority of the time, this is affecting novices to where it's again a simple fix, a simple cue, but it's not this huge dreadful thing that's happening and will hinder your squat. Like a lot of people again can get pretty damn high and heavy with their squat with
Mhm.
a butt wink.
Yeah, it's not something that needs to be fixed unless it's the cause, or unless it's basically like a down chain symptom from other problems. The
Mhm.
majority of times that I'll see people actually talking about this, they're committing other setup errors and other movement errors, which is just creating what the butt wink is. And then they're like, oh, the butt wink is the problem. It's because they're bad coaches and they haven't seen it. They're kind of like three schools of what the considerations are. The first one is the butt just tucking under it all, right? I mean, you could have like a 250-pound guy squatting 550 pounds. He's very strong. His pelvis moves a little bit at the bottom as he hits depth, and someone's like, "Oh, butt wink, bad squat." It's or people will other call it like a loss of lower back control at or around depth, and that could just be from them getting loose. So like you'll see some lifters, just so that you can see me here, they'll go at like a pretty steady pace. They'll go steady pace, and then when they hit the bottom, they're going to completely collapse. And when they completely collapse, then then that happens. Mick, you're heading out.
I'm off. Thanks, fellas. Good to see you all.
Later, dude. We'll have you
You
on
too,
for the
Mick.
cooking episode.
Yes, and the
Bring the
thyroid
air
episode.
fryer out.
Considering
Yeah.
that's
Some bangers.
that's right. All right. Catch you later.
Later,
See you,
man.
Mick.
All right, there we go. Now Chase and I can talk shit.
Hell yeah.
The one that is actually problematic that Chase was mentioning is a progressive flexion throughout the descent, and it probably just isn't in their lower back; it's in their entire back. So we can we'll pull up a video example of this. Let me find that guy real quick. He was in one of our shows about like 2 weeks ago, I think. He was the guy. Yeah, he was Kirkland. He had the Detroit Flyers thing. You may remember this gentleman,
I
Chase.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah?
Okay.
Okay. So this isn't the best angle, but this is someone who was on the show. What we're going to see here is a guy who just doesn't really know how to control his spine from the top to the bottom. He's talking a little bit at the grip. It kind of starts at the upper back. But what we're going to see is that he'll start in this relatively normal position, and he just gets more and more rounded as he goes down. Someone may say that this is butt wink because his pelvis is tucking under the entire time. But in reality, he's just not squeezing his chest up. He doesn't know how to control his back at all. So one of the categories for what butt wink generally is the lifter doesn't know what their spine is doing at all at any point. So if you tried to cue a back position item for them, they would never understand it because they don't understand anything about what their back is doing. Rip has some good articles about that. So he's leaning over, he's staying relatively rigid, but it just gets a little bit more round as it goes on, and he's high of depth. How would you go about fixing this, Chase?
Yeah, a lot of this is stemming from too, like it could be from the knee position. So if he's constantly forward, it's going to have a hard time establishing where his back needs to be because everything is all drifted forward. All the moment arms that he's experiencing are just now exacerbated, and it's going to be hard for him to kind of handle this load and hit depth. So the first thing is we got to set his knees, right? Making sure they go out, but not any more forward. And then try to think of a cue to help flatten the low back at the very bottom. So like drop your balls in between your legs, shove the belt in between your thighs, something along that nature, right, to kind of keep that rigidness in the low back.
Yeah, he's really forward on this one. We'll talk about how being forward is rough. On this last
Mhm.
one, he almost like walks it into the rack as he's locking out because he's that far forward. He would
Mhm.
fall forward if he didn't take that step. But the cue that he was saying about like, dropping your belt buckle down between your thighs, that's a big one. This is basically just someone who doesn't know how to set their back at all. That's kind
Yep.
of a school for what butt wink could be considered. Okay, we'll go back to this. There's some other categories that I want to talk about for this. Okay, so the last one, we'll go to this next one talking about depth, and then we'll go back to the torso angle, like the stance. We're just going to pull up someone who is going way too deep overall, and then they can be going that deep for like specific training purposes. For example, like if someone's like, "Oh, I want to get a little bit more quad work out of this. This is a light quad day. I don't care if my background's." But what we're going to see here, I'll pause it right before she hits depth. So it's like back is staying nice and extended. Boop. Back is still in his extension. She just hit depth. And then now what we're going to see is as she gets deeper, her lower back position is going to change. Boop. And then now it's rounded off at the bottom, right? Chase, can you tell us about some of the reasons why we don't want people or generally don't ask people to go completely ass to grass?
Yeah, so we have 3 criteria with lifts, right? We want the lifts to have the most muscle mass, to do the most weight over the greatest effective range of motion. So that last one that I kind of keyed in, that's really important with the squat here. So she's adding in some more range of motion, but it's now affecting one of the criteria, and that's the muscle mass. She has to relax to go that deep, and then she's relaxing a low back in this scenario. So
Mm-hmm.
this range of motion for her is not effective to train the most muscle mass. So we need her to stay in this position where Alex just freezed and to keep her back rigid.
Yeah. So a lot of times, and again, in a CrossFit situation, they're kind of some of the people who care about this the most. Like Squat University and then CrossFit, they really care about butt wink is an issue. If your torso angle and your segment lengths are not compatible and you are attempting to go ass to grass, something like this is going to happen. You're going to be at depth, the back is going to remain extended, and then boop, you're going to get deeper. Let's see if we can get a little, yeah, so we're going to get deeper and then the back is going to round. It's just kind of a thing that happens. You can't avoid that. There's not really a way for her to get all the way down there and then still have a flat lower back. There's just not a
Mhm.
way. The hamstrings have a maximum length, and you can't disobey that maximum length, right? It's not that her hamstrings are less than flexible or not flexible enough. It's just like, hey, there's a terminal length to the hamstrings. Your femurs are getting relatively longer, let's say, for example, or they're pushing your hips farther away from the midfoot. And then as it gets past a certain point of depth, the lower back has to round. What we like to say is just don't squat that deep.
Yep.
You know. So how often do you ever see people losing their back position from something like where their thighs are, what their stance is like? Let's say their legs are really straight out in front of them. Do you ever see that?
Not too much. And if that is the case, like it's again a simple fix. So we want a stance where our heels are underneath our shoulders. And the reason why, so like if we go back to that lady squatting, you can tell she kind of had a wide stance. So now her adductors are in a position to where she's really being pulled anterior because of how stretched they are. So now the muscle mass is kind of manipulating a little bit too and contributing to that butt wink. But the more narrow the stance too, you have your thighs jammed up against your stomach to where you can't essentially plop your pelvis into place and lean over. So now you have
Yeah.
this, yeah, like this guy, he has his thighs too close, they're too jammed in together, and now his belly is crowded, and he has to now round his low back to go a little bit deeper.
You remember this guy, Chase?
Yeah, I remember him.
Yep. Yeah. Milinchix. Milinchix has been working on this for a while. Our recommendations, the first time we saw him and the third time, has always been really wide in the stance.
Hmm.
Question from G Lock: did Rusty ever get his SSC? Chase, do you know that? Did Rusty ever get his?
I don't think so, but
Yeah, I think he passed his platform. He just never
yeah,
did the
he's
board
waiting on
exam.
his oral or some shit. I don't know, man. Rusty's
Yeah,
kind of
he's
a
doing the video editor exam.
yeah. He's kind of a procrastinate whenever it comes to that.
All the pals. Yeah, pal posting extreme. But yeah, Milinchix is an example of he's going to stop before his back rounds, right? So basically, with how narrow his stance is and how forward his legs are, the only way for him to get depth are to widen his stance, but he can't do that in the middle of the rep. So what would have to happen is his back would have to round, right? So as his back rounds, his spine changes configuration, and then it can move around the position to get into a more desirable depth. He doesn't do that, so he just squats high, right?
Hmm.
So theoretically, like if his back rounded a little bit, and you got 2 inches deeper, would that be a bad thing? Not necessarily, but you could also solve it with just a proper setup, like Chase said, move the stance out, you know. So I think one of the big recurring themes that we'll see here on a lot of movement errors is that if it's coached correctly to start with, it's not really going to be a problem.
Yep.
Chase, do you remember seeing a video that Rip did, or it's of Rip? It's called like a case for the starting strength model, and it's him doing a big presentation.
Oh, like on the auditorium, and he's like in his nice shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's got the big striped shirt on.
yeah.
I was watching that again because I sent it to somebody, and I was like, you know what, I should watch this again. And there were like some physical therapy exercise science students, and they're asking them about like, would you ever teach someone like a glute bridge so that they could finish their deadlifts? And then Rip does this really funny thing, and he's like, what, they're having a hard time standing up, you know, and he does like it's like 3/4 of a pull, and he's like,
Yeah.
just tell them to stand up. And they're like, well, what if it doesn't work? And it's like, well, coach them better, you know. And you
Yeah.
kind of turns into this circle where it's like, you don't need the corrective exercise to do it, you just need
Yep.
to have it coached correctly in the first place. And that video is a gem.
And hell, he's told me this many times too. It's just like you can kind of tell who's a seasoned coach by their problem solving skills, right? So if a person's coming in and he is, let's say, not setting his back, and you go, up, this guy can't ever pull from the floor, so we're just going to make him rack pull. Like, that's kind of a good start, but we have to lower him down because that's not the model. We have to deadlift him. And I think a lot of the time, like, you see, some bullshit out there with people doing corrective exercises for simple fix, and people will just don't want the simple, non-sleek, complicated shit to be the answer.
Yeah, like, have you tried not making it hard on purpose? Have you tried teaching it correctly? You know.
Yep.
This gentleman sent in a video over the last week. His name is Calum, maybe, I don't know. It could be an Irishy guy, but he has an American flag. Unsure. This is an interesting one. So it kind of combines a few problems, which is why I wanted to put it in. He doesn't really have a severe toe angle. He has relatively long femurs. His knees are pointed pretty straightforward, and we're seeing butt wink once he's getting past depth. But he's really flexible, so he pulls it off decently well. A squat university, someone would see this and be like, oh, okay, fairly decent. The only problem is butt wink. We would see a bunch of other problems with it. So Chase, watch this. Let me know what you think.
Gotcha. So yeah, he's raising his chest right out of the bottom, and that's kind of causing it. So he's essentially initiating his upward drive by straightening the low back and raising his chest.
Yeah. This runs counter to our model. This has a few things with it. So it's like he's getting more on his toes. His knees are getting more forward as he's ascending generally. He's shifting forward the entire time, and he can do that. This is light. This is what appears to be 155, and he probably weighs 190, 200 pounds. He looks pretty tall. His head's almost at the top of the rack. So you can do that with 155. You can't do that with a heavier weight. So how would you go about fixing this? Would you kind of relearn this from bottom up? Would you try to go cue by cue?
Not really from the bottom up, but he needs to initiate and feel what hip drive is, right? Staying more bent over as he's coming up. So several ways of doing this is making the belt lead out of the bottom. If he was on the platform with me, I'd make him drive into my hands so he can actually feel.
You put your hands right there.
Exactly. So right where the sacrum is, or his waistline, and make him drive hard into my hands so he knows that out of the bottom, it's not, okay, I'm good with my chest now. The chest has no play into this until like the very, very, very last percentage where you're completely locking out.
Yeah, but you're like 90% done.
Exactly. It's emphasizing, staying in the midfoot, driving with your ass, and essentially getting out of the knees here.
Yeah. So would you consider this butt wink to be like a downstream problem? Would you consider it to be a first order problem? Would you consider this to be a problem you would even address, or would you teach other things first?
I would not even address it because I could fix other things like his knee relationship, his hip drive, his balance, and that will sort itself out.
Yeah, that's a wonderful answer. I think a lot of people would see this and be like, oh, he has decent bar speed. He has a very vertical chest. His knees are nice and forward. Like, oh, great squat. The problem is just the butt wink. We need to get him to have more flexible hamstrings, or we need to get him to control his lower back better. Whereas in reality, there's a bunch of problems with this. Homeboy's only squatting 155. That's why he can do this. How many people would you ever see squatting 500 pounds who could do it, that vertical, that fast, not taking a brace, not leading with their hips, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever tried it for fun, Chase? Have you ever tried doing a really like chest up squat on the back squat, not a front squat?
No, I don't. I
It,
think it's like it goes against my DNA now. Like I don't think I possibly could.
give it a try. It feels really weird.
Well, I
Feels
bet.
really weird.
I
Yeah.
tried a couple years ago high bar squatting, just playing some exercises out for my knees to help some knee tendonitis. And dude, even that was just like, fuck, man, my traps hurt. Like this was like 225. I'm like, this feels like shit. Why the fuck do people do this?
Yeah, I'll put the empty bar on my back sometimes in a high bar position as I'm warming up. My shoulders are still really tight, and I'm like, I could
Yeah.
not carry 405 on this.
Fuck
This
no, I
feels
don't
like
know how
trash.
people do it.
Trashola. All right, so we did Matthew Materazzi. Okay, we gotta watch Matthew Materazzi. We watched his video a little bit ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, something like that, and it is relevant here. So Chase may disagree with me. I'm excited to see if he does. In this situation, he's doing mostly everything correctly. He's just stopping a little bit high. If, according to this is all according to memory. Butt wing would be a little bit desirable here. If he softened his lower back up a little bit, he could just get to a better depth and then just stand back up. You know, it wouldn't be a very critical thing for him. He's not going to lose 100 pounds in a squat if he does this. Yeah, he's a little bit on the toes.
Mm-hmm.
Hips need to go back more. But he's stopping early, and he's also really maintaining that tight lower back position. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a throwback, G-Lock. Rusty would disagree with me. Rusty is a very by-the-book police officer of the squat cops. Yeah, I think one of the things going on with Matthew's squat is that he's overly concerned about lower back extension, and because of that, he's got very forward, and he's not at depth. Chase, what do you think?
Yeah, he just needs to lean over and shove his ass back, which that's kind of like the not sciencey way of what you just said, essentially.
Yeah, lean over, shove your ass back. Not complicated. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anything else to add for Matthew's squat as we're revisiting this?
I think we told him about his chin too, like he's kind of initiating it with his heads up and stuff like that. And again, that's kind of some byproducts of what you pointed out with maintaining this super oriented back, making sure that it's completely rigid. Look, it's going to be rigid, but the angle has to change, and that's where people kind of always get confused.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the angle it's going to have to change. There's going to be movement around the back. There's no two ways to avoid that. Let's pull up MJDC's lifetime PR.
Does he have some butt wink too? Because sometimes too, like another like MJ's kind of a bigger dude, and with my experience, like I've kind of seen some bigger dudes have it, but again, that's partly due from just like the mass of his low back and just how much area he has to kind of shove.
What I've seen it for bigger guys is that like their belly will interact with their thighs so early that the back will have to round to move around that mass. You know, what do you think's on the bar here? I didn't get that lifetime detail.
I don't know. Maybe 405, or is that a 10?
The end cap is a 10er.
I'm gonna say like 385.
385. Jeff Riggins, you can laugh. It is funny. Rusty and I disagreed a good bit about a lot of things, even like chin-up programming.
Yeah,
everything. It was wonderful, wonderful time. What all would you fix here, Chase? Oh, here we go. We got crucial details from MJ. MJ says this is 335. I hit 335 times 1 back in 2018 before I switched to CrossFit for 2 years. Started the NLP in 2020 at 155 for 3x5. Thanks for the help getting me here.
Nice.
Now let's just tear it apart. What's wrong, Chase?
Yeah. So MJ, you're kind of bouncing off your knees, man. Just control the load. Have a nice tempo. I know it's heavy, but think about like a 2 second, even 3 second tempo, and making sure that your ass touches the wall behind you. So you're kind of getting, right there into your knees a little bit, raising the chest. Again, so preserve you staying bent over and your ass going back, and this will avoid the knees, and you'll be solid, man.
Yeah. Rep 2 was the most forward, I would say. Yeah, these are all solid. Oh, he said I'm 12 pounds lighter than when I hit 335 by 1.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah, that's great, dude. Yeah, keep the weight
It
loss
is.
going. Keep it going. Think about it this way: is that you're just making the squat easier. You have to squat up less upper body weight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So theoretically, if you just took all of the fat off your midsection, you would have like a 30-pound squat PR in store immediately. You know, you could just put that directly on the bar. Yeah, no butt wink here. Solid PR from MJDC. Okay, let's go back to this. So Chase did have a few gems about torso angle here. Achieving the desired torso angle. Do you ever see a lack of back extension or the ability to control their back because they're leaning over too much or leaning over too little? Where do you normally see that at?
Usually too much. I actually had a guy come in for a he's going to be in for a couple weeks with his job, and he wanted to join the gym. He's never worked with an SSC before, so we ran him through an intro, and dude's super flexible, and like to reach depth, this guy was no shit, almost making his back angle parallel to the floor. That right there is going to cause some rounding of their lower back severely. Yeah, I usually don't see too much of like the other way of like some dude just refusing to lean over, and if he does, it's a pretty easy fix. Again, I just make him lean over. But getting someone to understand the relationship of you leaning over more doesn't cause depth, that's kind of the tricky one.
Yeah, it facilitates depth by allowing the bar to stay at midfoot. That's like it's a crucial detail. We have the starting strength squat poster, and we can talk more about that then. The lean doesn't create depth, right? Because the leaning is happening around your hip and your torso. It allows you to continue squatting without falling over. That's the cool part. So we talked about when people go overly deep. We talked about torso angle. We talked about early novices who have no idea what the hell their back is doing. We did talk with Milinchicks about squatting overly narrow. If you're overly narrow, you got nowhere to go. Your back's going to have to round. Any other reasons why you think this phenomenon would pop up in a squat, Chase?
We can kind of talk about the sciences about this. So like what's happening essentially on the pelvis, right? So to kind of jump into that, like you have basically two muscle masses. Yes, like on this, like right where Alex's cursor is, like you have the anatomy of the hamstrings controlling one aspect of the pelvis, and then just below like this dude's elbow on his low back region, you have another part of the anatomy of his low back, his spinal erectus, controlling the pelvis there. Rip has a really good explanation of this. It's basically a battle, right? And we want the spinal erectors to win here. So if you were to kind of think about the hamstrings winning this battle, the hamstring length is changing. So that means his back angle is changing, his knee angle is changing, right? Going more forward. And it is disrupting a lot of the key landmarks and foundations of the squat here. So where he's off balance, and we've seen that with a couple of guys on the videos here. So the low back needs to win. And you do that by leaning over, shoving your ass back, and not letting the knees travel more forward than they need to be.
Yeah, the goal is to have what Rip describes as a static hamstring length, right? So as it is lengthening near your pelvis, it is shortening around the knee because the knee is closing. So essentially, on like the superior part of the pelvis, on the top part, you have your lower back, all those erector muscles pulling the pelvis up into that anterior pelvic tilt. On the bottom side of the pelvis, you have the hamstrings pulling it into posterior. They have to be in a good relationship between each other. Butt wink is whenever that gets perturbed, basically, whenever the lower back rounds under. Sometimes if you have someone with like a really short torso, they have to lean over a ton. You know, this guy's actually leaned over a good bit. You know, he has a pretty short torso here. So like in this situation, you may see a little bit of lower back rounding. The one thing that I did want to talk about here is with segment length. So like if you could imagine, for example, if this guy, if his femurs were even longer than this, right? The bar really, really wants to stay over the middle of your foot. If it doesn't stay over the middle of your foot, bad things are going to happen, right? The squat's just going to be less effective. In some cases, you'll fall over. Because the bar wants to stay over the middle of your foot, you have to obey that constraint, right? You can't change the length of your femur very easily once the squat has started. So the only thing that can change is the relative length of your spine, right? So if it needs to get shorter at some point to continue movement, right, the lower back is going to round. Sometimes the upper back can round too. It's pretty rare because you'll fall or the rack position will collapse, but more often than not, it's the lower back. One thing we can say here is that, let's say if you have a really short torso, okay, what's one of the things that we can do to mitigate that? We can widen the stance and shove the knees out more, right? So if you could imagine this guy had like another 4 inches on his femurs, but we widened his stance out, right? Imagine if he was doing like a split and all you could see was his foot here, right? His femoral length would be 0 in that case. So the wider we make the stance, the more we increase the toe angle, the more we can, quote unquote, dissipate the length of his femurs. So a lot of the times, the issue with butt wink is literally just the stance is too narrow, right? If the person's torso is too short to maintain it, you just widen the stance up, shove the knees out more. You're shortening the femurs. The back can manage it. Is that it? Oh, here's your old program, Chase. Do you remember this?
Yeah, it's already changed.
It's already changed? What have you changed?
Yeah. Dude, so this past week, it was crazy. Monday, totally fine. I think I hit. I've been kind of coordinating with Josh on some things to change, but Monday I hit. I think it was some hang snatches for like a 5x2. Nothing crazy, 90 kilos. Some press 3x3, and then some pause squats because my knees are kind of aggravating me. So it was like a 5x3 for the pause squats. Tuesday, fucking dead. I could not move anything, and I was supposed to do some hang cleans, and then a rep from the jump position and then off the floor. So some volume work, again, nothing heavy. And I got 2 sets in. I'm like, I can't fucking do this. Like, I literally feel like, I feel like death. So I stopped, and I was like, I'm gonna just rest. Thursday, I kind of did somewhat of a deload. I hit just a top single on the snatch, and then what did I do? I benched a 3x3 and then a top single on the squat, relatively light. And Friday was fucking good to go. I clean and jerked 160, hit a push press PR of 185, and rack pulled 675 for 3. So kind of go light on the rack pulls, but
I like how you switched to pounds for the rack pull.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a second. Oh, it's pounds.
I don't know what that is in kilos.
Who knows, man? Kilos don't work on the rack pull. All right. Can it be desirable? We talked about maximum hamstring length, change in the spine's position, more lean with extension, bars desired midfoot. Do you ever really see butt wink on someone who has really short femurs, little legs?
Usually it's the opposite with the long femurs. And
yep,
you kind of touch that with the relationship on the knee. And again, that goes back into the hamstring, the war between the hamstring and the low back musculature.
Yeah, it's not something that you'll really see. The only case you'll ever see where it pops up with someone who has very short, little stubby legs is if they're only focused on back extension. So some people are like really overly anal back extension. Then you'll see it, like Chase mentioned, very early on. Are they only focusing on that back extension? This CrossFit video was crazy, dude. I was gonna put the link into it. I was like, oh god.
So did you actually know what the actual So the term butt wink is actually not for what we're actually describing. That's just a loss of positioning of the pelvis. So the butt wink is actually like it's a fidgeting of one of the sphincters in like the anal tract or something like that.
Is it?
That's what's actual butt wink. That's what someone told me that a long time ago. I'm like, really?
Okay, and they were like, "Here, let me show you. Come to the parking lot with me."
They didn't show me that.
All right, we have some videos from Johnny G. We have a few that come in for him. So we'll check out his squat while I look up this what is the actual clinical butt wink? Butt wink sphincter control.
So
here
Johnny's
we go. I'm sorry. So this is less relevant. When I looked it up, I got to tightening your anal sphincter. Learn to strengthen your pelvic floor muscles can help with incontinence. I'm looking for the term wink at any point. There's no wink in this article.
Man, I was going to say, did Johnny kind of have some improvements on his squat, but then he ended up fucking it up on his later reps. But
all right, let me check this out. So we have 2 plates on the bar.
Like 240.
240. Okay. How long do you normally tell people in terms of their time in between reps on the squat with a novice?
The
Do you try to
time to
tell them
take
as fast as they can?
something along those lines. Like usually it's focusing on take a breath, make sure you find your balance. Let's go.
Yeah. Johnny G in this one, he's taking a little bit too long in between, and I think it's just
Yeah.
causing excessive fatigue.
I agree.
Yeah. Sometimes if it's like a higher rep set, you can get away with that because the load is lighter and it's not crushing you. So if you're doing a set of 8, you can take another 3 seconds, but like it's not advisable under a heavy set of 5.
No,
Yeah,
man,
the big
Johnny.
thing. Oh, go. Sorry.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say Johnny need to control the eye gaze, and I think this is gonna help a lot of it. Eye gaze, and then learning to bend the knees and hips at the same time. Just let everything go straight down.
Some of these reps were decent on depth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the big thing here is what Chase was talking about, like the head position, and then what that does to your eye gaze. So, poop. So that depth's fine.
Yeah.
Totally fine. And then you just lift the chest up out of the bottom. Basically, once you get to about here, rather than like standing up under the bar, like with your hips, basically you try to pull your chest up and back. Yeah, I would say this is as a coach, I would honestly say just the most common error pattern that you'll see with most people, and they'll be like, "Man, why is the top of the squat so hard?" It's just because they're just really they let the knees shoot forward again. They're really grinding to pick the chest up. And then we got another one of his pull. Man, Johnny's deadlifts are always crazy.
Why? Doesn't he like pull around the knees like real bad, right?
He pulls like really far around the knees. They just look so hard and unpleasant.
Yeah.
Okay, you remember? Yeah, he's like, I pull my hamstrings every time I deadlift. What's wrong? Yeah, I see it again. Yeah, he's doing a 10-second rep. Yeah. This seems to be. I can't tell if that's 1 or 2 blues on the inside there.
Man, he needs a tubo for his deadlift. If he could find a way to like, I've done this several times where like I'll stand in front of a bar with someone's deadlifting, and that it instantly corrects it because they're like, oh fuck, I can't touch this dude. If he could find a way to like place like his wife right there,
stand right there.
Yeah, something that's gonna make him regret touching it. Be totally fine.
Yeah, I would regret touching his wife as well. I do this a lot for the press. If someone's throwing the bar out in front of them on the press, I won't stand directly in front of them. I will stand slightly off to the side.
I'll put my forearm kind of like that.
I'll put my face there because I've tried the forearm, and a lot of times they'll just hit the forearm, and I'll be like, "You fucker!" But I'll just stand right there, and I'll just say, "Don't hit me," and then the person will correct the bar path spontaneously. It's a miracle, you know. Where it's just like, "Oh well, you're just paying attention now." Johnny says this is 315, so there are 2 blues on the inside there. All right, Johnny. So we're going to pause this at a very relevant frame. Okay. Or would you say his shoulders are a little bit too far out? He's on his toes. What's going on here, Chase?
Yeah, he's definitely getting into like the balls of his feet, and his shoulders are a little bit too forward of the barbell. So he may need to initiate this by just thinking straight up instead of making his butt come up or like his other region of like his backside coming up, but the shoulders need to lead on the way up.
The descent speed may also be bugging the hamstrings. So it's like a lot of times you're setting up for your deadlift reps here, Johnny, and you're like, oh, the bar's on my shins. I'm all set. But you have egregiously rocked forward. So I think what's the video called that Nick did with Bree? It's like a quick deadlift fix or something like that.
Like it's the deadlift step 4.5.
Yeah. Do you remember what that's called?
I think that's what it is, like another step in the deadlift or something.
Something to that effect, what Chase was saying. But literally, you get to this point, you say, stop it. I'm going to remember what Chase and Alex said. And then you just rock back onto your heels. You just give it another second, let it bake in, and then you pull from there. Yeah, this is like, for sure forward.
That step should be like, hey, I have my wife standing in front of me. I cannot touch my wife because she's pissed at me right now. So I'm not going to bump into her with this barbell.
I love these wife-based cues. I'm going to try to incorporate that into my coaching. Anyone who's been recently divorced, I'm going to use their wife as like a pretend she's there and you can't.
They may make it worse. They may hit her. I don't know.
I mean, it could be true. One thing that I've done in this situation is I'll just have someone deadlift really close to a wall.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like, hey, I want you to put the bar for the deadlift like 1.5 feet from the wall, and then don't headbutt the wall at any point during the deadlift. And if you did that, you're probably on your heels.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, if we ever see this kind of like float off the shins and it kind of recalibrates, gets really heavy and painful, that means the bar's coming out to the front.
Yep.
That's it. Let me see if we got anything else we should go over here. I think that's it for today. Any other parting shots for butt winking, Chase?
No, man, it sounds confusing. A lot of people have put a lot of emphasis into this. That's really, it's nothing drastic. If you find a good coach, they know how to fix it. It's a simple fix, and making sure that you're not applying those simple fixes with something else, like you're doing accessory movements, accessory exercises, all that silly shit. Just you need to stay away from that.
It is 100% confirmed silly shit. I would strong recommendation for everybody to watch that video that Chase and I were talking about, the case for the starting strength model. I think that's the only time I've ever seen Rip in a dress shirt, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, me, no. I've seen him on like one or two other occasions, but it's a
One or
handful
two.
of times.
Okay, yeah. Sometimes we'll just come in a full tuxedo, I hope, into the office.
Sometimes.
But yeah, that's a really good video. Check all those things out. I think the big thing is there's no amount of corrective exercise that will ever fix poor coaching.
It's true. And that's
Nothing.
for any movement pattern thing, right? So like if you go to judo, right, and you get some guy who can't learn how to grab on to the gi or something like that, you don't spend fucking 15 minutes doing gi related
Hand therapy.
yeah, hand therapy. No, you don't do that shit.
Yeah. Speaking of judo, I was in DC this weekend. We were looking at condos. So they had a guy who used to compete in international Grand Prix. He's Mongolian. He used to compete at 66 kilos. Right. He's
Holy
maybe
shit.
like 5'4", 5'6", somewhere in that range. He's now like 95 kilos.
Oh my god.
I
That's
know.
awesome.
He's a solid little meatball. I was watching him do like back handsprings to cartwheels to handstands to rolls to punching out of a back handspring, all an insane amount of gymnastics. We do a lot of tumbling to warm up.
Yeah.
And they were just some of the best, most crisp gymnastics I've ever seen. And he's like a mid-40s guy his fighting weight was like 66 kilos. Chase can throw 66 kilos over his head with one hand.
Yeah.
And then he's just like 95 kilos now. I'm gonna be honest with you, Chase. We did we wrestled together. We did some sparring. He threw me, like launched me through the air on command, like I think 12 or 13 times over the course of 4 minutes.
That's awesome.
I've been grappling a lot for maybe the past decade. I have never gotten dabbed on so hard in my entire life. It was crazy. So he's won a bunch of world masters. He's been he's medaled in like Asian Grand Prix.
Wow.
Just how strong incredibly strong he was. And he would say, "Oh, I'm very out of shape. I'm not strong right now." But feeling him like just grab over my neck and just pull me down, it was
Just like he's a fucking gorilla.
it was insane. I was like, I would expect this man to be 120 kilos and be like 6'4",
Wow.
but he's like 5'6", out of shape. It was crazy. Yeah, it was almost embarrassing, frankly, because like there was another guy in the room. He's an alternate for the Colombian Olympic team, like a decade and a half ago. He's an older guy too. He's like 37. We were wrestling. We would go even. I was going even with the Colombian guy, and then the Mongolian guy. He was like, "Oh well, come on over." He was being super nice. It was insane. I felt like a toddler. It was I was absolutely disgusting. But yeah, that was most of my weekend. I think that's it. Chase, what's going on your Instagram? Anything else going on there?
No.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Mm-mm. I put a link to your coaching page from the Starting Strength directory in the description.
Oh, nice. Thanks.
Yeah. I think we should just put that one in there. It's more convenient for everybody.
Yeah.
It's in my website too. We got to get you some more reviews, man. You got one review on there. You got to tell your people.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why. I have like 12 or 10 clients, so.
Well, have your in-person people do it too, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else was I going to say? Yeah, I sent out good bit of guys. Everyone's being very procrastinating about it, though.
Oh, about leaving reviews?
Yeah, a lot of hard
putting
procrastinators.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've asked like 40 people.
Nice.
Yeah. Man, I think that's it. What do you want to talk about next time, Chase? Diabetes?
Yeah, we can. Just
Okay.
how, well, I mean, just in general, like how does, it's not really autoimmune, but just big life-changing diseases like that. How do you have to program around it? How do you have to lift around it and stuff like that?
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. All right, cool. So next week we're gonna have the lifting with medical conditions and diabetes,
Oh yeah.
the sugars.
Hell
But all
yeah.
right, everybody, thank you very much for watching. Bye.
See ya.